And let's just go right to the phone calls and talk to Larry in Long Beach, California. Hi, Larry.
Hey, Hank, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question on Hebrews 10:25, where it reads, "Do not forsake the assembly of the saints." I know a lot of churches and a lot of people are rushing to get back into church, and I think it's kind of unsafe. And I know some people are using that verse to justify that we cannot forsake the assembly of the saints. And I don't think that scripture is actually saying that, but I just want to get your thoughts and what you think about that. Is that a justification verse that do we need to get back into fellowship physically in church because we are forsaking the assembly of the saints?
Well, I mean, the word "have to," do we have to, is questionable, or the phrase is questionable in my mind. I mean, I think all of us want to, because we realize that you cannot have God as your father without having the church as your mother. It is through the church that you receive the graces that transform us from one glory to another. And therefore, the gathering of ourselves together is axiomatic. It's not something we have to do. It's something that, well, maybe I should rephrase that. It is something that we have to do in that sense. But I certainly think there's a place for compromise, which is to say, I think there's a place for doing those things that are necessary so that you do not continue to proliferate a pandemic that is continuing to morph in different ways. The pandemic today is a little different than it was at the beginning. It spreads more easily, but it appears to be less deadly than it was in its initial stages. So there are people like myself that have compromised immune systems, and therefore they have to be more careful about this than others. I do think that we have to be wise as serpents, gentle as doves in this matter. And I don't think we need to be social engineered. There are a lot of people that are not looking at the science. They're simply mouthing mantras. For example, masks that people wear are masks that have pores that are between 20 and 100 microns. Well, the COVID virus is between 0.1, it's around 0.1 microns. So if you wear the wrong kind of mask, it's sort of like trying to keep mosquitoes out of your backyard with a chain link fence. So there are good masks to wear and masks that are not so good, but you also have to recognize what the liabilities of wearing masks are and not just wear them for the sake of wearing them. Wearing them in the appropriate circumstances makes sense, but in inappropriate circumstances can even be counterproductive. So I think you have to be wise about all of these things. And I'm really glad that churches are opened and that by and large, churches are practicing the kinds of social distancing mechanisms that are necessary to halt the spread of the virus.
Oh, okay. So using that verse is not, they're not scripturally wrong by saying that we need to, because I know the virus it's like you said, it's not as deadly as before, but it's spiking. The more people gather, it seems like it's again having a second wave of it. And I know the government is also, God ordained government too, for us to listen to his wise advice. So I was just wondering if someone is going against.
I think the operative word is wise. Where the government is giving advice that is not wise, and that has happened a lot during this pandemic, then you don't follow that kind of unwise kind of exhortation. But in general, going back to your question, not forsaking the assembly of ourselves together as is the custom of some, but exhorting one another, and so much more as you see the day approaching. There's a wisdom in exhortation, there's a wisdom in assembly, but in the midst of a pandemic, there's also wisdom in proper compromise.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
You got it. Thank you so much for your call.